croissant. Right? So true. Please welcome to the microphone, first-time second story storyteller, Connie Shirakawa.
The hard part is getting up here. I would dearly love to erase 15 minutes of my life. It was the 70s. I was a grad student working in the dining hall at the Breadloaf Writers Conference. The idyllic rolling hills of Middlebury, Vermont look and smell and taste nothing like the teeming Chicago street where I am from. There was always something going on Winchester Street, where we were the only Japanese-American family in a street full of Italians, Irish, Russians, and odd-lot circus folk. The street reeked with Mr. Tiano's wine fermenting in his basement. The strong odors of pungent cheeses and garlicky Italian sauces always filled the air, along with whiffs of salami and pepperoni from Ontario's meat market. We lived in connected 3-story red brick row houses, so the smells seeped right through the common walls, along with the screaming and the shouting and the high drama that to our Italian neighbors was just ordinary, everyday conversation. My dad contributed his share to the character of the neighborhood by making Polish pierogi from scratch, spicy striped tacos sometimes, and often he brought home sausages and onions that he had gotten on Maxwell Street. Vermont smells like, well, someone filtered all of the flavors out of the air. I started wheezing and coughing as soon as I got there. Maybe the air is not dirty enough for me, or I'm allergic to fresh country air. While no one at home looked like me, I was happy in my neighborhood. I felt that I belonged there and joyously ran around the streets with all my friends. Middlebury, Vermont was like dying and going to a strangely quiet place in heaven where everybody seemed sort of numb and not used to having an all-American Japanese face in their midst. I hear that New Englanders think you don't even belong next to them unless you've lived there for generations upon generations. No one in the town of Middlebury seemed very friendly to me. I laughed when I saw a New England wall that was about this high and was made of boulders that kept falling off. I knew Robert Frost's poem, Mending a Wall, very well, but I'd never seen one. Where I come from, a wall is a wall. It is high and keeps burglars and strangers out of your yard, right? And it's too high to scale if the police are chasing you. Another thing about New England was that it was really a quiet and reserved place. My mother had often told me, Connie, be quiet, calm down, don't talk too much. But I just couldn't do it at that time. She also said something to me before I left for Middlebury College. Remember, Connie, it's better to try than not to succeed at all. What did that mean? I guess I was trying to find myself, my own true spirit at the time. The first day, I walked into the main hall for our welcoming talk. I sat down on one of the long wooden benches and found myself sitting next to Alice Walker, you know, the color purple Alice Walker. She looked at me and said, "You have the greatest smile." I was stunned into being quiet, just as my mother always wanted me to be. Then later, at one of the workshops we attended, we were given the assignment to write a description of someone else who was in the room. Of course, said the teacher, don't choose Connie because she is Oriental, and everyone would instantly know who you're talking about. I definitely felt like a foreign spirit in Vermont on the campus of Middlebury. There were 10 of us wannabe writers and poets from all over the country who had snagged this coveted waitership to Breadloaf. We all lived together in a little yellow dormitory across the way from the dining hall. In return for free tuition, the student waiters had to serve dinner family style, which meant that you had to lug these steel trays filled with bowls of steaming creamed chicken, bland overcooked green beans, hot mashed potatoes, white bread and butter over to these big round tables for 10. I had to wear a long white apron that tied with strings around my waist. Mine was way too long for me, so I sort of swooshed when I walked through the lovely and quaint New England dining room. It never occurred to me that I would have any trouble hauling these trays with my sweaty hands in the 90-degree New England heat wave that summer. Then the day came when we found out that Julia Child was coming to dinner on a book tour. She was such a famous TV personality, and despite her dowdy flowered dress and 50s permed hair with tight little curls, I loved her. I was enthralled with her from the minute she walked in the room, and was drawn to her eccentric babbling and exuberance, and felt that she was a mirror spirit who talked a lot, and people warmed up to her because of how she was and not who she was so much. I delighted in just watching her eat and taste and smack her lips over each dish at dinner. I loved her. She could name the ingredients and everything, and she rattled off the names of spices as if they were names of cats. Aha! Basil! Pepper! She screeched. And I do believe, yes, cinnamon. Very nicely buttered, too. She made me smile inside because she was not New England stuffy, and she was really different from everyone else in the room. Yet, everyone loved her. I was thrilled to be in the same room with her, and proud to be assigned as her designated server. In fact, I was so happy and heady that I didn't notice I was losing my grip on the huge dessert tray as I was making my way to Julia Child's table. There was nowhere to set it down, and my short stature, with a giant tray resting on my upturned right hand, left-handed, was a fulcrum disaster waiting to happen. What to do? I panicked, whirled around 180 degrees, trying to make it back to the kitchen so as not to cause a scene in the dining room by dropping everything, or worse, dropping it on our famous dinner guest. I made it as far as the kitchen door, though, where I slipped on a fork and flung all the food forward onto the wall. With a colossal crash, I too fell into the whipped cream and the apple crisp with the coffee service for 10. The wall was a Rorschach of my worst nightmare, as the whipped cream and the coffee and the apples oozed down the lovely gardenia wallpaper. The next thing I knew, all the diners had come running over to me. As I looked up into Julia Child's concerned eyes, she warbled, "Oh, my dear heavens, what happened?" I was a young budding writer, full of bright words. All I could manage to say at the time, though, was, "I dropped something." up and looked out of the dining hall, down the embankment to the country road toward our dorm. My long white apron, now splattered with whipped cream and brown sugar and coffee, slid down the white pants that I wore underneath and lay on the road, where I too wanted to lay down and be run over by a truck. I had blown it. Kaput. It was over. Bread Loaf was a white bread world where I had no place, not even waiting tables. I was just a failed focaccia, burnt toast, not the croissant that I wanted to be at that time. I suppose that embarrassment never killed anyone, but at 23, I was thoroughly deflated. Oh, eventually everything was just fine. I was hired as a writer at the Leo Burnett advertising agency, where I met many mirror spirits like Julia Child who talked loudly and were funny and lively. Here at last are my people, I thought. Offbeat, talky, freewheeling folks. What a relief that I found this basketful of mixed nut breads like me. Today, I still cannot even look at the cover of Julia Child's Mastering the Art of French Cooking without wincing. I can't cook anything more complicated than popcorn. And certainly, I never ever tried to wait tables again.